Hello, everyone. This is Charles Folkart. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank those especially who subscribe and watch these videos. I know I don't have a great number of subscribers, but each one of you are important, and I thank you for taking your time. This is a short video. I try to keep it as short as possible, but I put enough in there so that you can get the gist. I was involved in a lawsuit where the plaintiff did not have a case, but the attorney took it on. The law office took it on. It was a young attorney who wrote the complaint. She must have just been out of law school, and she wrote she wrote a complaint that was defective on the face. That means that there was no argument, there was no disputing of the facts. Right on the face of the complaint, she should not have been allowed to proceed with her lawsuit. They went ahead taking several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of the client, and they got in so far. And so now they can't tell the client, well, hey, we made a mistake, and so they had to find another way to win the case because the case was without merit. So what they did was, instead of trying the case on the merits, they colluded with the judge, and they blamed a mandatory mediation that did not take place. They blamed it on me, even though I showed up for the mediation and I was the only one there. The attorney and the client committed perjury. The attorney tried to tamper with the witness, and they colluded with the judge in open court. And it's all there. It's all in the public record. And I brought this all up to the Montana Supreme Court, and they ignored it, along with the law of the case. And that's a technical term for this is the issue that the lower court, we want the lower court. The Supreme Court told the lower court, this is the issue that needs to be resolved. Well, when I appealed the second time, I won my first appeal. And when I appealed the second time, they realized now, wow, we got a big thing here. We got a judge colluding with a member of the bar. We've got alleged witness tampering, alleged perjury, and we have alleged collusion with the judge, which is all on the public record. And yet they ignore all that, and they rule against me. They uphold, the Supreme Court upholds the default judgment issued or ruled upon by the lower court. And a default judgment is an extreme measure. They admit that. The courts admit that. And yet they went ahead anyway. So here I show up in Missoula to this Access for Justice forum, and I give my 3-minute talk in response to what the Supreme Court did to me. And I was the fly in the ointment. And I just want you to see it. I'm so tired of people. All they do is talk and talk and talk, complain and complain and complain. And we just need to start showing up at these meetings, and we need to start expressing our opinion, and we need to stop being afraid of what the consequences will be. We're in the predicament we're in now today, folks, because nobody wants to do what I did. People are afraid to get up in front of a group of people, attorneys and lawyers and Supreme Court justice. I spoke directly at him. The camera doesn't show him doing this, but he turns his head away many times. When I turn, if you watch in the video, I'm looking right at the Montana Supreme Court Chief Justice McGrath, who's up for reappointment. He's running unopposed as far as I know. And why would a 67-year-old man want to continue working when he can retire and enjoy his life at his age? He wants to get back on again, folks. That should tell you a lot right there. Anyway, I won't go on, but watch at the very end where McGrath addresses the man from Summers, which was me. He skirts the issue. He doesn't address the issue that I brought up, that they're disobeying the law. He ignores all that and goes on with there are people in the court system that have a problem because they don't have an attorney and they're not educated and they don't have the experience and they don't know what to do. I get that. But I wasn't and I am not one of those people. So he has no excuse. Okay? He has no excuse for what they did. And the sad thing is, most of the people that I've talked to about what happens, how corrupt the Montana legal system is, they don't care. They don't care. They've got their toys, they've got their snowmobiles, they've got their boats, they've got all their toys, they got their football games. They don't care. So it's getting worse. The legal problems and the situation here in the United States is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So that pretty soon everyone's going to be affected, and then they'll get the attention of those people with their toys and their football games and all this other crap that they're involved in is not going to matter anymore, because things are going to get so bad here in this country that they're not going to be able to enjoy those things, and they're going to have to get off their ass and they're going to have to do something. Okay? That's coming, folks. You're all going to be in the same boat that many of us are already in and have been in for years. If you read my book, Deadbeat Dad, I went through the legal system in the 1990s, and things haven't gotten better, folks. They've gotten worse all over the country. And now here we are. There is no more rule of law, as we saw in the Hillary case. That's been a fact for years. Nobody in the government and nobody in the corporate arena goes to jail for anything they do wrong. But I get hammered with $100,000 default judgment against me, plus interest, back to the time that the money was given. The money was given as an investment. And yet this woman with the officer of the court, I'm going to name him too, Quentin Rhodes. Quentin Rhodes. He's a real scumbag lawyer, folks, and he got away with it. All right? Okay, enough. I'll let you watch. And again, I want to thank you for watching.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the Missoula Access to Justice Forum. My name is Matthew Dale. I work in the Office of Consumer Protection and Victim Services in the Department of Justice in Helena, and will serve as the moderator of today's event. This forum is the fourth in a series of 7 regional public discussions across the state taking place over the next year. All 7 of these events concern the challenges in securing equal access to the civil legal system. The forum will begin today with testimony directed to the listening panel from individuals working for organizations that assist citizens who at times encounter gaps and shortfalls when trying to gain access to the civil legal system, and those individuals and their agencies are listed in the program. Each of the speakers will have 5 minutes to outline their experience, followed by questions from the listening panel if they would like more detail. We didn't have a chance to address the speakers before we got started, but Eric here will be the timekeeper, and we're going to stick to the 5-minute time limit in order to allow questions from the panel, and also time at the end of the session for members of the public that wish to speak. At the conclusion of the formalized portion of the forum, there will be a public comment period. In order to participate in that, you will need to come to the front, where the session is not only being recorded, but MCAT is it's being broadcast as well. And for that reason, if you are going to speak as a member of the public, you want to keep in mind that it is being recorded and live streamed, and you should be careful with the personal information or details that you speak about, because it will be public very shortly after you start talking about it. So are we going to use those Okay, so if you're a member of the public and you're interested in participating, either making a comment or a question coming forward, if you would let Megan know, this is Megan, and she will give you a card. We'll have that so we can adjudicate the time in a way that everyone that wants to speak is able to do so. Just keep in mind that you will have to come up to the front if you're going to do that. So before we begin, if you would please silence your cell phones. The restrooms are just out this door to the right. If you didn't notice when you came in, there is food and beverages here in the back. That was not only available now, but afterwards for networking opportunities. And I think rather than me introducing the panel, Judge Tanner, if you would begin, we'll go through the panel with members introducing themselves, and then our first speaker will come to the podium.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Winona Tanner, and I'm the Chief Judge at the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes in Pablo.
Hello, my name is Karen Orzak. I'm the Justice of the Peace in Missoula County, and I've been a judge for 17 and a half years, and I'm retiring on July 8th.
Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Halligan. I'm one of 4 district court judges in the 4th Judicial District Court, which serves Missoula and Mineral counties. I'm appearing today. I have recently been appointed as a judge as of May of last year, and will be running for re-election this ballot, but I am unopposed at this point.
So don't think about running, is that what you're saying? I'm Mike McGrath. I'm Chief Justice of the Montana Supreme Court. We're here to assess how we're doing and what needs to be done, and anxious to hear what you had to say.
And I'm Paul Kurgis. I'm the Dean of the Blewett School of Law. We are delighted to host this event today as part of our Law Week, which has as its emphasis this year access to justice and pro bono work.
I'm Kimberly Dudick. I'm an attorney here in Montana. I am also a state legislator, my 4th year. I serve on the Appropriations Committee that sets our state's budget, and I specifically deal with the budget for the courts, the public defender system, and corrections, as well as the Public Service Commission. And I'm also on the Access to Justice Commission, and we look forward to all the input we'll be having today.
And my name is Ron Eli, and I'm also a legislator from Hamilton, Bitterroot Valley, House District 86, and I serve on appropriations also. And my chairman of the subcommittee for Health and Human Services, so we see a lot about children protective services and the court systems and how that relates to access to justice. So I'm here as that person that wants to listen for the lower end of the legislation.
Follow in the same order that in the pamphlet here. So Kat, if you would make your way to the front, please. Just to reinforce, if you have questions for any of the speakers, you should feel free to ask them when they're done before they sit down, because they won't come back around again. And there are a number of legislators here in addition to the 2 on the panel, and where the Access to Justice Commission is extremely grateful for you taking the time to join us this afternoon. Charles, you're up.
Sure, my name is Charles Folkart. I'm from Stars, Montana. I agree with the Montana Supreme Court when it states access to justice is not just a legal problem, it's a community problem. Supreme Court Justice Beth Baker said, Montana's courts are busy and getting busier. Last year we had a record number of filings, over 53,000. She also said, quote, another thing that is slowing down Montana's court in recent years is a growing number of people who come to court without a lawyer or legal help. I suggest there's another problem not mentioned by Justice Baker. The judges, including the Supreme Court, are not obeying the law. In October 2012, a plaintiff, through an officer of the court, filed a complaint against me in Butte County alleging fraud. Its case number DC 12302. I was and am not guilty. I represented myself because I have the experience, I have the ability, and most importantly, I have the right to represent myself. Access to Montana justice system was not a problem. Access to justice was the problem, and judges not obeying the law was the problem. The complaint was defective on its face, so according to the statute of limitation and rule of court, it should have been thrown out of court. That would have reduced the amount of cases in the system. The problem for me and for many others who represent themselves is that judges make it crystal clear that we are not welcome in, quote, their courtrooms. And even though I eventually sought the advice of attorney in drafting my arguments, the judges ruled against my sound legal arguments time after time. In short, the judges, including the Montana Supreme Court, are disobeying the law. Because Judge Newman disobeyed the law, I spent the next 3.5 years going through what you call a legal system. Because Judge Newman, Judge Kruger, and the Montana Supreme Court did not obey the law, I, like many others forced into the Montana legal system, paid a very high price mentally, emotionally, and financially. I was also denied my right to a trial by jury. This is not how our legal system is supposed to work. The Montana legal system is not a private club for the attorneys and the attorneys who become judges. The legal system is our legal system. If judges obey the law and treat everyone equally, representing oneself in a legal dispute does not require a law school education. In my second appeal, case number 15-0345, the Montana Supreme Court ignored its own remanded and mandated law of the case, ignored 3 of my 5 brief issues, ignored the law, and affirmed the lower court's default judgment, an extreme measure by the court's own omission. Therefore, I have 3 questions to this commission. Question number 1, is in the Montana legal system, why aren't self-representative individuals treated equally under the law? Question number 2, why are we expected to obey the law, but the Montana judges, including Supreme Court judges, are not obeying the law? And number 3, since a Montana Supreme Court opinion is the final ruling in a case, where does one go when the Montana Supreme Court itself does not obey the law? And I'm okay with questions.
So I get to talk for 25 minutes?
Yes, sir. Not 26.
We're on you. How's that? Better? It's difficult to know where to start. Would comment just a little bit on the last gentleman from Summers. A lot has been done in the court system to try to help people navigate the system on their own. I think it was, one of the first speakers talked about the self-help program and how many people go through that. Somebody said 70% of the domestic violence cases have at least one person in those cases that doesn't have an attorney, either can't get an attorney or can't afford an attorney. And those are not necessarily the same thing. There are a lot of attorneys that aren't interested in taking those kinds of cases. A lot has to be done that's the biggest challenge we have in the system, is people who are trying to, from our perspective, people who are trying to access the court system that don't have the ability to have an attorney and therefore have complicated or overcomplicate the problems that they have navigating the system. One of the problems it creates is the delay in the system. I think we've done a lot to address that in terms of providing the forms and the kinds of things that people can get at a self-help center to explain what it is that's expected of them in the system. That's immensely helpful to the judges, but one of our biggest problems outside of community resources is we don't have enough legal resources. The court systems in most communities are close to being overwhelmed, and I'm not sure I understand the reasons, but since 2010, the case filings in a number of areas have dramatically increased, certainly in the criminal law, certainly in the area of dependent neglect cases. In this community, since 2010, we've almost had triple the number of child abuse and neglect cases. In Valley County, they doubled. In Phillips County, they tripled. It's a phenomenon that's happening statewide. A lot of it has to do with drugs and alcohol. But there are amazing problems that people have in our communities and come to the legal system to try to get assistance. And it's clear all of us that work in the system are aware that we don't have the resources that we need to address those problems adequately. But we work at it. And this session is extremely important for us to get a sense of what's available, what's happening in the community, try to find out maybe there's some new ideas, some approaches we can take to make the system we have better. I certainly appreciate all of you coming today and appreciate the things that you're doing in your own community. It's an impressive town, and you do have a lot of impressive people working on problems here. Thanks.